Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to the channel. You're watching Talks with Ryan. Now, like I've said in a million other videos, there is no coincidences in life. Now, it's been like 2 weeks since the father and son, Greg and Travis McMichaels, were arrested on murder charges for the death of Ahmaud Arbery. Now, this is some new breaking news in the case. The resident, the neighbor, William Bryan, aka Rody. He's the guy that filmed the entire altercation, but now new evidence shows that he's been arrested. He's been arrested under a felony murder charge along with criminal intent to commit false imprisonment. He was in the position to film this. Now they're starting to say that this whole situation could have possibly been more like an ambush than an incident. It's stated in the information that he very well could have participated by using his vehicle to block Arbery, to help the McMichaels out. And according to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the family of Arbery has made a statement about the most recent arrest and the head-turning events in this case. Check it out.
Called for his arrest from the very beginning of this process. His involvement in the murder of Mr. Arbery was obvious to us and to many around the country. And after their thorough investigation, it was clear to the GBI as well. The family of Mr. Arbery is thankful for the diligence of the GBI and the way in which they tirelessly pursued the evidence in this case. We want anyone who participated in the murder of Mr. Arbery to be held accountable.
Brian William, aka Rody, was picked up on May 21st of 2020. That was on a Thursday evening, and he was picked up by the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. The warrant states that it was issued at 17:45, which is around 5:45 p.m., and the arresting officer was Officer Moss, badge number 1131. Now, Brian Williams is 50 years old and now facing felony murder charges.
This is extraordinarily striking, Wolf, because, felony murder is what he is being charged with. And that is important here because most people think to themselves, if you're not the one who actually fired the gun, then there would not be criminal liability. But felony murder is a doctrine that essentially says if you participated in the crime, if you were somebody who advised or encouraged or in some way helped another person commit a crime, even if nobody intended to actually kill somebody, the fact that you were engaged in a felony or a crime and there was a foreseeable risk that somebody could be harmed, you can be liable.
The Georgia state law for felony murder reads as follows: 16-5-1C. A person commits the offense of murder when, in the commission of a felony, he or she causes the death of another human, being irrespective to malice. Now, furthermore, a suspect could be charged with felony murder even though they are not the one who killed the victim. Statute 16-220 dictates when a person is a party to a crime, a person is concerned or the commission of a crime only if he directly commits the crime, intentionally causes some other person to commit the crime under such circumstances that the other person is not guilty of any crime either, in fact, or because of legal incapacity, intentionally aids or abets in the commission of the crime, or intentionally advises, encourages, hires, counsels, or procures another to commit the crime. In order to better help everybody understand all this legal garbage, here's an example. I wasn't the one who killed the victim. For co-felons, states differ as to whether a co-defendant can be liable for the death of another, even though they didn't kill the victim. However, Georgia takes the stand that any death that occurs during the commission of a felony will transfer to all of the co-felons, basically guilty by association. Therefore, it does not matter that you were not the one who killed the victim, you could still be charged with felony murder.
What is true here is that they were not buying for whatever reason. The GBI and the prosecutor now handling the case that this was pure coincidence, that Roddy Bryan purely coincidentally was in the area at this time. And instead, it speaks to the fact that they think, rather than coincidence, this was someone who was complicit in the crime.
That's just like in every single case, there's always underlying information. But I can safely say, I believe, that if it wasn't for the people coming out and standing up for Ahmaud Arbery, I feel like this case would have closed out just within a few days after it started. It's a must, regardless of skin color, culture, all the above. We are all people. We are all on the same side, and we must stay united together. And since I mentioned underlying information, I thought I would go ahead and share with you a little bit of info on Greg McMichaels, because it turns out the longer this case goes, the more things they're finding out. Let's look into Greg, and then we'll call it quits.
One of the men seen in the bed of a truck is a former investigator for the Brunswick District Attorney's Office. Gregory McMichael has been the chief investigator under DA Jackie Johnson for more than 20 years. Personnel records from 2014 show for at least 8 years, McMichael was acting as an investigator with no arrest powers due to a lack of training. The executive director of Georgia's Peace Officer Standards and Training Council, Mike Ayers, says it means he couldn't apply for orders of arrest warrants, search warrants, or conduct arrests under the color of the law.
Essentially, that individual at that point in time has no more authority to exercise restraint or control over another individual than any other citizen would have.
Gregory McMichael stated himself he knew that he had been behind in his hours, but recently discovered that he did not have arrest powers since January 2006. Until his arrest powers are restored, he is to hand over his badge, any identification cards identifying him as a deputy sheriff or district attorney office investigator, and his apartment issued firearm.
After the revelation, McMichael went before the Georgia Post Council and was granted a waiver, allowing him to stay on as a full-time investigator. His boss, DA Jackie Johnson, spoke in front of the council on his behalf, writing in a letter that the situation had, quote, negatively impacted my office. Personnel files show McMichael for years was behind on governor-mandated training hours for de-escalation, community-oriented policing, and use of force.
Considering that Greg McMichaels had been behind on his company training for years, this is going to open up a whole can of worms. There's going to be probably thousands of investigations that's going to be coming back and saying, hey, I want my stuff looked at again because Greg McMichaels was doing it and he was not properly trained.
So what I think we're going to see, if we haven't already seen it already, is all of these defendants who, if he was involved in their case, all are going to have the right to come back into court and say, wait a minute, I want my case looked at again because he was involved with it and he had no lawful authority to do what he was doing.
Guys, the pace in this investigation is starting to pick up and information is changing and evolving on a daily basis. Regardless if it's, William Bryan or one of the McMichaels, either Travis or Greg. But regardless of the fact, I'm going to stay on top of it and I'm going to continue to bring you guys information as it breaks in the story and keep everybody up to date on the whole situation. Don't forget to stop and have a look at the merch store. I will leave the link in the description of this video. And other than that, guys, I will see you all in the next video.